Welcome back. We'll continue on our transmission on the Prime Minister's visit to China, where he will be, he's expected to sign significant agreements related to motorways, highways as part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. We'll be talking, he's going to be going for a 4-day trip starting on October 16th, primarily to attend the Third Belt Road Forum, BRF, for international cooperation. I have with me right now Dr. Zia Shamsi, who's a senior analyst. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, who is an IR expert. Thank you for joining us today. And Dr. Baqir Malik, who's also an expert on international relations. Thank you for being with us today. Like I said, Dr. Zia, let's start off with you. Overall, of course, CPEC remains close to our heart. We want to reap maximum benefit from this project of extraordinary proportions. There are hurdles, there have been problems. We've been talking about them, before also. Let's start with this visit as a whole. How do you look at the tangibles from it? In your opinion, what do we hope to gain from this 4-day visit of the Prime Minister?
Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In fact, the timings of the visit are very crucial, very important, because BRI, or the Belt and Road Initiative of President Xi Jinping, is completing its 10 years, and it's gained a lot in last 10 years. It actually has revolutionized the concept of developing nations with the slogan of marching together of President Xi and marching together towards shared vision towards prosperity and development. That is why it is very significant. And CPEC being the flagstaff or the flagship project of BRI is very significant and will be discussed during this conference, I think, on more than few occasions. The Prime Minister's visit is significant because he has the opportunity to sign a number of agreements that have been pending for some time, due to which it was called, or it was repeated by our adversaries, that CPEC has hit the snag and CPEC is not progressing as desired or as planned, and therefore it is time to silence the critics of CPEC, because CPEC had been under hybrid war by the adversaries not only of Pakistan but of China as well. So therefore I see an opportunity for the Prime Minister to insist upon signing all those outstanding MOUs and agreements which were hit by our adversaries, media, or the propaganda or the diplomatic maneuvers, and were being delayed. For example, the ML1 project is already delayed by over 5 to 7 years, and that is why the cost has escalated perhaps to beyond economical repair at this stage. But it is never too late, because these infrastructure projects take time to materialize.
Fair enough. Dr. Shabana, do you think, what Dr. Zia is talking about, do you think he's going to be, the Prime Minister is going to be able to get, China and of course sign those agreements, that have come to a standstill that he's talking about?
Well, I will slightly disagree here. I think that CPEC has not hit the the bottom rock, as has been propagated or put forward by anti CPEC campaign that has been taken over all the social media and others. Well, I do agree that yes, there have been few lapses, and it is also because of, not only because of the changes on the political scene in Pakistan, but also because of other concerns from both ends. Whether it is security concerns or economic slowdown on our case, and also the lack of trained manpower and the lack of basic meteorological or the highway equipments or others that were in the pipeline. So this is, of course, I think it is a renewal of the commitment that has always been there, and we must also admit that this is the Prime Minister has been invited by the Presidency. and that really signifies the importance not only to the CPEC but to the whole project of BRI. And Pakistan through the CPEC is one of the major linkmen or the overall shared vision or the global vision that China is pursuing.
There's also, you know, like you said, there have been, you know, whether we talk, there have been snags, whether they've been blown out of proportion or, you know, there has been a lot of propaganda surrounding it. Like Dr. Shabana said, Dr. Baqir, you know, that is also true. We talk about, you know, a hostile neighbor, we talk about, there's a whole lobby that's against CPEC. You know, not only for us but also for China as a whole, and what it means for both the countries, the potential of it. That having been said, there are also issues on our end. Are we going to be able to address those also? Because when we tell the Chinese that we'll be able to deal with the security, when we tell the Chinese we'll be able to deal with snags like, for example, bureaucratic hurdles, all of those things, we have to be able to honor them. And there is a timeline, as I understand, we are lagging behind on that. Isn't that true?
You know, when you're talking about the PM visit to China, we must understand with the three different perspectives. One is the basically a bilateral relation between Pakistan and China. Second is it's a regional perspective, and third one we call a global perspective. So, for example, if we are talking about the economic bilateral relation, this Prime Minister visit is just not only to attend the third forum of BRI, but actually PM want to address how we can strengthen our economic ties between between China and Pakistan, and how we can increase our cooperation in the energy sector, infrastructure development. And secondly, I think PM will also address about this recent development that was happening in India G20, that a corridor route between Europe, Middle East to India. So what will be its implication, or what will be its opportunity for a CPEC? And thirdly, they will also, I think, the strategic partnership between Pakistan and China, and how it is basically.
There's also talk of this you know, a talk of something that's out of the box, a breakthrough, so to speak. What do you expect that to be?
I don't think so, because you know, there is some news was circulating that Pakistan was wanted to extend this CPEC project from this, including AGK, Balochistan and KPK, but China has refused to extend its project. I think this was not the reason, because China has already invested something like a $32 billion, and this project is something like more than $100 billion, and 120 country is directly or indirectly basically linked to this. So the major hurdles between both sides is basically a security. That's why you have seen from the last few months, Pakistan has started operation against the illegal Afghan national. Just want to satisfy the China that we are working to secure a Chinese engineer or secure to the Chinese route or like this. So there is some hurdle, but I think both countries understand that these hurdle is basically not like that we can stop this CPEC and like that.
Fair enough. Dr. Zia, do you think there's going to be, do you think it's about extension? What do you know, could you, I mean, of course we don't know for certain at this time, but what can be, in your opinion, that out of the box breakthrough that is being talked about as far as CPEC is concerned?
I think we should expect a number of agreements that were pending.
Okay.
And the most importantly is the ML1 as far as Pakistan is concerned, because we need to have decent speed railway infrastructure between Karachi to Peshawar. That can further be expanded in future through Afghanistan to Central Asia and other places. That will speed up the trade, and that will ultimately then can be linked to Gwadar also. So that the CPEC, the spirit of CPEC gets completed. So that I am very keen to look at, that it is signed and it gets off the ground now, because it's already delayed a lot. And then the impression that the adversaries create that China is investing for its own reasons and Pakistan in the long run will get into debt trap, etc. I think that needs to be shed off, and this narrative must be countered by us in Pakistan. It's the responsibility of the media and academia both that we counter this narrative, because this is in our benefit as well. And the Chinese slogan, as we know of President Xi since 2013, it's been together we rise, together we march. We have a shared vision, productive engagement, cooperative engagement. Now these jargons are alien to the US-led Western world, who would only talk of power, security, and punishment, denial, compellence, coercion. This is a war between two ideological concepts. One from Sun Tzu, that war is not an option, it is to be used as a last resort. And the other is Machiavellian concept, that power and security, that you resolve your differences through power. So this contest is now getting into perhaps in its culminative phase, where China has quietly risen in the last 20 years, when the US was busy in unnecessary wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and now US
perhaps
suddenly
is still
finds
busy.
Now US suddenly finds that by 2028 China would be the largest economy, and the political influence that China has gained because of the BRI in Africa, in South America, in Europe, in Asia is immense. And now perhaps the successive US administrations failed to visualize that at one stage it will be difficult for them to
counter this.
To counter China.
Dr. Shabana, I think Dr. Zia raises a very interesting point when he talks about these two different approaches, two different ideologies between the West and what the Chinese propagate, and the way that they look at things, which is behind, I think, the concept behind CPEC also to a certain extent. If you see that, or at least one has to contend the relationship that Pakistan has enjoyed with China. Do you agree with that?
Well, frankly, I feel that the very vision of the capitalist world that Pakistan has been part of in the post-Cold War era, and even today to a great extent, the Europe and others remains our major trading partners. Even with China, we don't have the maximum trade. And the closest relationship that Pakistan has enjoyed after its creation is with China. So this basically, to me, it looks that all the systems, whether it is the the cooperative security or it is a capitalist-led system, they are fine if you are performing.
Okay.
So to me, what is important is that for the CPEC, as you have said and also hinted by my colleagues as well, if there are gaps on any end, if you are not delivering to the ones who are interested in investing and to the people who are ultimately of the Pakistan and others for the vision, then the projects will float in the air. So the ideology does matter and the vision does matter, but what really matters is that how the system, infrastructural system, and that is gelled with your performance. With the slogans, if you are not delivering, to me it is of no use. And I think this is for all. As a Pakistani looking forward, and as a Chinese investing here, or the American friends who have been with us, or the European, any other, Saudis or any others. And second important point is, as has been very rightly pointed out, that yes, milestones are going to be, we are going to get into an agreement, to me that looks very impressive, is that is into the, with our NHA, National Highway project, there is going to be a specialized training centers, research training centers that Pakistan at the moment lack. We have excellent engineers, but we are still not that much well versed with the highest global standards of tunneling, because the whole project of the CPEC and others going through a difficult terrain of Pakistan needs that expertise, and that also needs the pavements and others. They are going to instill that, help us Pakistanis be educated. And I must say the best part about China is that sets it apart from the US and others is, when they give you a technology, they make you learn the technology. Unfortunately, on the western part is they give you a technology like the F-16 you buy, they don't give you the means how to repair that. So this is something I think a lesson that one must read, and I think the Pakistanis have learned this lesson, and we have the capacity. But for the Pakistanis point of view, from us, I think we need to balance both sides.
Okay.
Because we are a country that we need our economic uplift to go on upward curve. So we can't afford to be in one camp or another. So our only camp is for the prosperity of the people, and I think the government and the institutions and
But
bureaucratic
I think China
are very
of course
clear.
understands that. It
They
has
are very well versed with that point, and that is why they are also investing in the human development. They have opened up, they have given a lot of PhDs and other high development skill education centers within the country and also there. So this is a very, very important takeaway one can take.
Dr. Baqir, I think Dr. Shabana is right. She says, we need to deal, it's an important takeaway that, whether we talk about blocks, we talk about groups, all of that, leaving that aside, I think it wouldn't be wrong to say that China enjoys a special relationship with Pakistan. It has always proven itself to be a special ally also. More than an ally, I think a friend, a close friend, that's always helped us out of the way also. But these issues of transparency, accountability that keep, there's a lot of propaganda at play here. There is a massive propaganda which one must address. And I think Dr. Zia mentioned, through academia, through media, all of those things. Is it just propaganda, or do you think that we've seen perhaps snags as far as CPEC is concerned? There have been, there are issues in your opinion of transparency and accountability at all?
I think it's just not like a propaganda. For example, if we say that Pakistan, to be honest, Pakistan is actually not using properly this CPEC for the benefit of the people, because
those
Pakistan,
are the propagandas.
yeah, you can say that, because Pakistan is just not like has not basically you can create a favorable environment for the investor, or even they are unable to convince the Chinese investor to invest in the China. I think this is the reason when PM is visiting to the China,
You think
they have some meeting to the some
Okay.
businessmen or like this, so they wanted to say that now
So
the situation is something like under control.
we are
have
investing. Okay, fair enough. You're saying that the issues, the propaganda regarding our issues of investment are going to be addressed by the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And I think with regard to that, Dr. Zia, I think what Dr. Baqir is saying, perhaps even the, again, I want to discuss this, I think I mentioned earlier also, the special investment facilitation councils are also going to, council is also going to be able to facilitate in that area. Also to reassure Chinese investors, is that going to be, you think, on the agenda as far as the Prime Minister is concerned? To tell them that, we are friendly and open and secure for Chinese investment and Chinese investors to come?
I think this point always remains whenever you are talking to your investor. And this is not a simple investment by China. It is a strategic investment that China is making in Pakistan, because China in the long run will gain a lot out of it. There is no doubt about it. And it's a win-win situation, because Pakistan also needed this kind of investment to develop its less developed area, that especially from through Balochistan.
Right.
So this kind of assurance an investor would always insist on, and that the country where it is being invested.
But Dr. Zia,
always
as far as let me interject, as far as the optics are concerned, they are of concern also. Like you said, of course, they would want to insist, and we would want to paint the right picture, dispel the propaganda, because the optics in this situation do matter.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is why perhaps I said that a counter narrative is required.
Yes.
I mean, we have been very defensive when the propaganda against the CPEC and its impending projects and delays were going on. We were just keeping quiet. We should have been proactive in countering this kind of propaganda. But that had been perhaps because of domestic politics, unfortunately. And we must come out of it now, because, and think about the national interests. The project is in national interest of Pakistan. Let it be straight on the tip. No matter which government in power in Islamabad, it's a national interest project. It must be continued and completed in the interest of Pakistan and in people's interest, because it will immensely benefit the people from the less developed areas of Balochistan and KP. So therefore, as far as the assurances are concerned, obviously we will make an effort that the investors' money is also safe, their workers are also safe, and their projects are also safe. This is in our interest. But as Dr. Sahiba has said, that we need to deliver. It is not only that we will keep inviting the investors and we fail to deliver because of the domestic politics. That will not go on for
Dr.
very long.
Shabana, I think we talk about delivering, as Dr. Zia is saying. And is it true that we've had the snags we've had, unfortunately, whatever the reasons, domestic politics, propaganda, whatever, international propaganda, propaganda from India, the sabotage, all of that, regardless of that, there have been delays. Are we going to be able to adequately deal with those delays now, in your opinion? Certainly the resolve is there.
Yes, I think Pakistan has been, as has been pointed out by Shamsi Saab, Pakistan has been, every Pakistani is very clear that CPEC stands for the good of all. This is number one. Whether it is those in government or in opposition, to me it is that. What has gone wrong is, number one is our security scenario that is mostly externally generated. And that externally generated has unfortunately been gelled with the vulnerable, less developed parts of the country. So they have mixed it, number one. And number two is the lack of our expertise. Chinese are willing to give you the orders of like manufacture this thing in SEZ, but the point is that even talking to in my research as well, the people are supposed to be delivering don't have, number one, the capacity or nor the trained labor. So that is why we have been delaying that. So it is either by, it's not by design all the time, it has been by circumstances as the time.
So how do we address those
I
issues?
think Chinese are well aware of the fact that the CPEC should not, we have crossed the 10 years plus, and the CPEC should be seen as a generational project. This is not something that you make a motorway and you go away, You have to keep on updating it to the needs of the time. Today you have the transit ticket, the next day you are going to have the electronic polls, the next day maybe you are going to have an air carriers. So this is how it's going to matter. And I think the Chinese, if you look into the philosophy, they're very patient in nature, whether it is their ideology or their action. They won't want quick results like the Americans have, You do it, you are here. If you don't do it, you are history. Americans say. In case of Chinese, they know how to walk with the history. So that is the benefit, the edge Pakistan has in cooperation with China.
They've been very patient.
They've been very patient. And I think this is the success of the Pakistan-Chinese relationship. It doesn't matter who is in power here and there. What matters is the commitment to the shared goals.
Dr. Baqir, do you agree?
Yeah, 100%, because if you compare both China and US, and you will see that China commitment they are more patient as compared to the US. Because when they have started this project, so 2 or 3 governments has changed in Pakistan, but still they basically, the delay is not from the Chinese side, but delay is basically from here. So still even they have not suspended anything or like this, but they are basically continuously started and different development project and like this. For them the result is more important than to just say that what kind of internal situation or like this or what kind of propaganda is basically started against this CPEC project.
They're focused on the goal.
They are more focused on the goal.
And they feel that their patience will be rewarded, of course. So they have confidence in Pakistan in that regard.
And this patience is basically in their military strategy, even in their economic strategy, or even their when they have some relation with Pakistan or some other countries. So they are more patient as compared to the US.
Dr. Zia, what about debt sustainability as far as CPEC is concerned? There are concerns about Pakistan's ability to manage the debt incurred for CPEC projects. Some of the terms of the loans have been said to be, too criticized as being too serious, too onerous for Pakistan. How would you respond to that?
No, I think these projects and the loan arrangements have been planned very carefully. The interest rate is not very high, and the Chinese are very flexible and forthcoming in adjusting or carrying them forward. Yes, it will be a burden if we do not utilize the projects in a proper manner, and if we do not make them productive and profitable, then we will have problem in repayments. But such infrastructure projects, they are self-earning, provided they are managed properly. If they're completed in time and you start earning out of them, and you set up a debt repayment council or committee that looks after and ensures that the debt repayments are done on time, then there will be no issue. However, this is the Western propaganda that you have actually pointed out, because it's a debt trap that the US calls that Pakistan is getting into. And they don't call it only for Pakistan, they call it for the rest of the world also, for Africa also, Sri Lanka also, Ethiopia also, and Thailand also, where CPEC projects are going in full swing. But look at the benefits that China has out of these projects. It has grown in last 10 years. The trade due to CPEC, due to BRI projects around the world is 8.6%. It's more than $120 billion that are in circulation. More than 10,000 Chinese companies are working in Africa alone on these projects. And as the World Bank has estimated, it's going to be over $1.3 trillion that will be in circulation in the next 10 years. So it is big. And China, as the Americans think tanks call rising power, I say it's a risen power. It has already risen beyond their imagination. While they were wasting time in wars, China, the middle power at that time, were quietly rising and quietly consolidating. And just look at the number of organizations that it is spearheading at this time. SCO, BRICS, and now Group of 77 plus China. I think it has overawed the philosophy of togetherness and shared vision, has overawed the US think tanks now. They have been warning, there is no doubt about it. They have been warning successive US administrations, but they were busy elsewhere. And now, in my opinion, Dr. Saiba can correct, it is very difficult to stop Chinese from overtaking the US economy by 2028.
Dr. Shabana, the status of China, like Dr. Zia has elucidated, I mean, one has to agree, of course, as a superpower. But the viability, the practicality of, us moving forward at a steady pace with the real concerns, let's keep the propaganda aside, how would you rate it? Considering that we are at this time, close to the elections, on the domestic front, whatever our situation is, we have a caretaker government at play, the structural reforms we need for that kind of long-term solutions to these snags, like for example, bureaucratic hurdles, all of those things will have to come through later. How would you look at that?
Well, I feel that Pakistan is going through another tough time on our side, and but unfortunately, we have been on the rocky roads for many years, and there have been up and down of the streams of the government, but we shouldn't be that pessimistic, because after all, it was the democratic government that initiated the whole CPEC project.
Of course.
And it was also not only the democratic government, it was beyond that, even the military period of Musharraf,
all stakeholders,
General Musharraf, and the others. So there is a clear sign that CPEC is not something to be disputed. But unfortunately, in the last government, there were few of the behind the interim, there were few of the misconceptions that were even I feel are blown out of proportion. And that were really became a serious concern of the, you know, the people started saying specifically against, again with the propaganda from outside, that Pakistan is not interested, you know, and that was the whole image that maybe the democratic or the political leaders are not interested in continuing its relationship with China. And I think that is a very, very unfavorable mantra. And coming to your point is that yes, elections are due, economy is not on the good terms, and our logistics are also not working that well. But are we in a capacity to take a full speed, you know, initiation with the CPEC? I think it's a tough call.
We talk about the full, I'm going to take Dr. Baqir also, but overall as we talk about realizing the full potential of CPEC, you know, we recently had, you know, the privatization minister also voiced concerns about the fact that, you know, the necessary finance for financing debt investment obligations that are related to CPEC are a significant challenge for Pakistan. Things like that, you know, there is concerns about underachievement of CPEC also, as far as goals, you know, the first 10 years, all of those issues are there that have been voiced recently. How do we redress? Are we going to be able to redress them? Are we going to be able to, you know, bring exports at this time in the kind of climate that we have, the kind of economy that we have?
I think we have to be very patient, and you know, and this recorrecting your economic blunders is not an easy job. You know, you could, and similarly is your stride towards writing off the debt is not an easy job. Debt is a debt wherever it comes from. Let's be very clear. And secondly is economy has to perform, and that is hand in hand with the governance system. Even if the economy is good but the governance is not good, you cannot have a good product at times. You know, you have the black marketing and things like that. Yes, you are right, whether we will be able to do it. We need a lot of creative minds, and but I feel there is no dearth of creative minds in Pakistan, but what we need really is the creative implementation, and that is what the people have to be on board. What unfortunately the character what I see in our country is that we want everything to be delivered good to us by the government, and the people are not willing to pay their part, even to you know, give the taxes.
We need that kind of resolve that has to come through across the board, and it has to come through you and I, it has to come through everyone.
Exactly.
Dr. Baqir, what about, you know, saying things, we also, Pakistan received only 25 billion in investment out of the 62 billion committed by China under CPEC. And you know, most of that 68% has gone into the power sector. So that is going to, you know, are we expecting, perhaps the Prime Minister will talk about the rest of the money that is, you know, Pakistan needs at this time, the investment that it needs, and you know, the fact that power sector, the money that has gone into the power sector, is it going to yield for the CPEC also? So those are concerns, right?
Yeah, I think Prime Minister will talk about this. We need to increase our cooperation of this energy sector, because energy sector is one of the most important part of this CPEC project. And when we are talking about that, Pakistan is just receiving 28 billion or $30 billion, and rest of the money is basically directly benefited to the China, it goes to the China. I think this is the reason why basically some you know, Western propaganda or some so-called scholar is basically talking about that this CPEC project is just not for the Pakistan, but actually China is using this corridor to strengthen their economy. But I think this is the reason, and we must understand, even our political class must understand, that the CPEC project is not related to any political class,
of course,
but it is the project
above
of
any political goal.
That's why this is the reason sometimes this intentionally or unintentionally political parties also become the part of this propaganda. That's why I think during this visit of PM and PM must talk about this. China is basically just not increase the investment in the CPEC project, but also need to discuss about how we can basically increase security cooperation, how we can secure the engineer, or like how we can basically import this share the knowledge or expertise from one part to another part. I think this is the most important thing. There's a China, as Dr. Shabana said, that China is basically not only delivering your technology, but they are also providing you some share the knowledge or expertise, that they also train the people, and this is the basically a difference between US and China like this. And that's as Shamsi Saab told, that China is basically risen, and it will take one of the economic superpower in 2028. I don't think so like this. We see that China will be the economic power in 2028, because American economic model is something different as compared to the rest of the world. You have seen America is busy in 2 wars, or you can say more than 20 years, but still its economy is working. It's just not like that. Even when Russia was invaded in Afghanistan, it was collapsed like this. So I don't think so that China will be the super economic power in 2028 like this. But yes, we must focus on this, how we basically increase our investment, how we can basically increase our trust between Pakistan and China, or how we can counter the propaganda.
Fair enough.
So this is the most important.
Dr. Zia, there is, of course, as far as special economic zones are concerned, we've been wanting to set them up, we've been wanting for them to become operational, and that hasn't happened yet. How you know, Chinese have been quite eager for those to become operational. Failures like this, you know, we need to counter them, we need to redress them. Do you agree?
Yeah, I fully agree with you. It's a very significant point that you have raised, but if you allow me, I just want to highlight one aspect, one impending propaganda against Pakistan, which you will perhaps start to see on the social media and electronic media within next 48 hours when PM lands over there. That will be that he is an interim prime minister. The agreement that he will sign will perhaps not be honored by the incoming governments, and so on and so forth. We need to
dispel it right now.
Yes, right here. And that is why I am pointing it out through your forum. We need to counter it. That, as the entire panel has said, that it is a national interest project.
To which all stakeholders agree.
All stakeholders. And this interim government is not a classical interim government of 90 days. Let me tell you.
It has more power, yes.
It has more power. It is there for a relatively longer period.
Yes.
Okay? And he is going under full authority from all stakeholders.
Yes.
To sign these agreements. So we must be mindful that this will come within next 48 hours.
Fair enough.
Then your question of special economic zone. Yes, there have been lapses. We have faltered, and we need to catch up. And as I said earlier, that
what are the main issues in those special economic zones not becoming operational, in your opinion?
I think it was a capacity issue, number one, and then political will. Unfortunately, because of domestic politics, that one particular zone of, let's say, this province be given expedited establishment, and the other side given lesser importance. That was an inner problem that we should deal with ourselves. But obviously there have been delays because of these reasons that I am citing. But there are no excuses. We need to catch up, and we need to catch up very fast.
And like you said, you know, this government has all the mandate in the sense that all stakeholders are on board with regard to CPEC. Dr. Shabana, I'll take your input on this also. And they all want to support this cause. They all agree with it. It's a national cause. We all are behind CPEC and the potential that it has for the people, the grassroots level, all of that. So we need to perhaps, you know, now is the time to move forward and deal with the lapses.
Yes, there is always a time, and the sooner the better we realize it. And I think all governments have tried their best, but as has been very rightly pointed out, yes, the capacity and the politics. Well, I will combine with another factor is the corruption. And that is, the corruption has been the major part that is CPEC, and it is not only the stakeholders, it is the ones who were the routes where they were going through. you know, and everybody has tried to CPEC as a one lifetime opportunity to maximize that, whether it was the local people or the other way. So this is a short-sightedness. I think this is something that Pakistan needs to get away with it, because we are in a hurry. Yes, we have to be in a hurry because we don't have money, but how to create a money is a long-term
how to create
aspect.
investment,
And I
how
think
to
we
create
have to learn from, you know,
confidence.
the Chinese perspective, and that is that you have to be a bit patient, and for that you have to put your house in order. And the Chinese have always supported, despite the lapses that we have all listed on the table. But you're right, how long can you afford to wait?
Fair enough. Thank you so much for being with us. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Zia Shamsi, thank you for joining us. Dr. Shabana Fayyaz, thank you for being with us. Dr. Baqir Malik, thank you for being with us today. Of course, we are all hopeful and we all have full confidence in this trip of the Prime Minister to, as far as CPEC is concerned, as far as the BRI is concerned, this conference and what it means, the potential of it, what it means for Pakistan, what it can mean for CPEC, for the Prime Minister to have, you know, his side-by-side meetings that he's expected to have, his meeting with the President, for them to realize, work on the snags, the issues as far as CPEC is concerned, the pace of it, all of those things remain on the agenda. And of course, the agreements that the Prime Minister is fully empowered to sign, and we hope that we will very soon see welcome news from that direction. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.